In this video, I will show you how to create the logo animation that you see on the screen. You can also use the animation as an intro at the beginning of your videos. First, we need to create a workspace. To do this, we create a composition. It should be 10 seconds long and have a black background. The composition should be 1920 by 1080 in size. Since this is a logo animation, we need a logo. I use Instagram's logo here. You can create a white logo, or you can turn the color white by applying the tint effect on the logo you add here. So I have imported Instagram's logo. I drag it onto the scene and adjust its size. Since it will be in the center of the scene, I press the letter S on the keyboard to reduce its dimensions slightly, making it more stable and proportional. After sizing, I deactivate the scale feature by pressing the letter S again. Now, we pre-compose this logo. I right-click, select Pre-compose. Choose the second option and name it. Let's call it Logo and click OK. If you want to use a different logo, you can replace it in this project. Now I choose a rectangle from the Shape tools above and draw a rectangle. A new shape layer appears in the timeline. If we examine the properties of this shape layer and the properties of the rectangle, we can adjust its size in the rectangle path section. Our objective here is to create 4 identical rectangles to cover the logo. So it is important that they are of equal width for visual consistency. I set the dimensions to 100 to 400. You can adjust these based on your project. Now let's make the first move. We will use the shape layer's position for this action. I move the timeline to the first second. You can check to make sure it is exactly there. We consider this to be the endpoint the rectangle will reach. I set a keyframe for this position. By clicking on the icon to its left, a keyframe appears. I then move the timeline back to the beginning and raise this keyframe so the rectangle is not visible. I select both keyframes and press F9. Next, I open the graph editor, select this keyframe and drag it to the left. It should appear this way, enhancing the animation. Then I return to the keyframe view by clicking the graph editor button again. After completing this animation, I collapse the options and press Ctrl D, D for duplicate, 3 times to create a total of 4 copies. Why? Because we need 4 rectangles for this logo animation. I shift them to the right and select all 4 layers by holding down the shift key. I press the letter P on the keyboard to display the position property for each layer. I shift them, placing the bottom one on the far left and the top one on the far right, and then overlay them on the logo. For a perfectly aligned image, select all 4 layers again. From the Align panel, click on the specified icon, equalizing the spacing between them. I move the logo upward to check its alignment. If it doesn't look right, I adjust it. When everything looks good, I place the logo back in the background. At the moment, it appears like this. But I want the rectangles to appear sequentially, so I scroll them to the right at equal intervals. I set the first one to 10, bring the second one in line with it and set it to 20. Bring the third one in line with that and set the top one to 30, aligning it accordingly. And that's how it will look. It is up to you to speed this up even more. Let's do it on 5 instead of 10. It will be much faster. If we do it in multiples of 5, it will look like this. And now, we need to give the logo an animation. These keyframes are not specific keyframes. You have to assign them whatever looks good to you. I select the logo, I press the letter P and assign a keyframe. I move the timeline to the beginning and I shift this logo down a little bit like this. It will look something like this. The logo is too slow. I speed it up a little bit. I select the 2 keyframes. I soften them by pressing F9 on the keyboard. I open the graph editor and I shift it to the left like we just did. It doesn't look bad this way. I can close the position settings of these. So I close the position settings of this one by pressing letter P on the keyboard. And I create 3 more copies of this one. I will place each one between the other rectangles, so we can use the rectangles as masks. So if you look from the bottom, you should see a pattern, logo, shape, and you will have to shift these logo layers. I bring my timeline back to the beginning. I type 5 again, and when I type 5, we slide the bottom logo like this. I type 10, I slide the top logo, and so on. I type 15 and I type 20 here. And then we will change the track matte values. We are changing it to alpha. I hover over the logos, I select them all with the Ctrl key, and I type alpha instead of none. This is what it looks like. The logo part is like this. Now we will make the stripes coming from above. I select the shapes again with the Ctrl key. I select all 4 and copy them with Ctrl C. I right click in the project panel and I create a new composition here. I click the arrow button and paste what we just copied here. Probably because we selected them upside down, I reverse their positions and adjust them so that the bottom one is on the far left. If this part is okay, I right click and create a new adjustment layer by selecting New. I rename this one to Ramp. When we bring the timeline up to this point, the rectangles are not visible because their visibility is not activated on the left. You can set them to active or visible. So these will be seen. Now I go to the effects panel and I type ramp here. You will see a gradient ramp effect. I drag it onto the adjustment layer that we just created and renamed ramp. This ramp effect will be between the points from above and below. I slide the points like this. Wherever I slide, the ramp effect will appear there. You can change the color of this according to your concept. We do this again from the effect itself. I return to the project panel. I import composition 1, which we have been working on from the beginning of the video. Now I play it again and as you can see, our logo is ready. We can also give it a reflection effect. We can give it a light effect. It will look much more professional and beautiful. I rename these compositions to make them more understandable. Let's call composition 1 logo animation and composition 2 logo reveal. Now let's create another new composition so that we can do the lighting effect. I right click and select new composition and let's call this one logo final. I drag logo reveal here. This is our effect and I apply a lighting effect on it. After importing logo reveal here, let's make a copy of this. I take the rectangle tool again, so I move the timeline a little bit further to see what is happening. I select the rectangle tool. I change its color to white and I draw a rectangle like this. I press the letter R on the keyboard, so I open the rotation settings. I rotate it and it rotates around this center point because this is the center point, but I want it to rotate from its own center. I press Ctrl Z first. With the shape layer selected, I double click on the anchor point by pressing the Ctrl key. Now, when I rotate it, it will rotate from its own center. This is what we wanted. I rotate it a little bit. I press the letter P on the keyboard and drag it upwards like this. Your goal is to have a light like this pass over the logo. After the logo is here, I set a keyframe to the left of position. Then I slide it like this. So there will be an effect like this. Again, adjust the angle or length and duration of this shape according to your taste. Of course, this shouldn't be visible at the beginning. After setting these keyframes, I select both of them and press F9 on the keyboard. I proceed to the masking part. I change the none value on the copy we just created with Ctrl D to alpha. After setting it to alpha, we won't see the light, so we won't see the strip. I go to Effects. I type fill here and I drag the fill value over the copy. We are starting to see it here. Let's make this white. I press the letter T on the keyboard and the opacity setting opens. We are going to lower the value of this. You can set it to 15 or 20. Let's see now. This is how it happened. It starts too late. So I adjust the timing to start after the logo's length. Yes, in this tutorial, I showed you how to create a professional looking logo animation that you can even use as an intro. If today's video was useful to you, don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel right now. Just click on the subscribe button below this video. Thank you for watching.